The scream that tore through the night was followed by the crackle of flames that painted the Montana sky orange and gold, and rancher Cole Hartley knew without thinking that someone was still trapped inside the burning barn. He had been checking the fence line near the northern pasture when he spotted the glow, his heart dropping like a stone into his gut as he realized it was coming from the Brennan property. Cole spurred his horse into a gallop, the September wind of 1883 whipping against his face as he raced toward the inferno. The Brennan ranch had been struggling since Thomas Brennan died last spring, leaving his daughter Eliza to manage the property alone. Cole had offered help more than once, but the stubborn woman always refused, insisting she could handle everything herself. Now, as he drew closer and heard another scream pierce the air, he realized her independence might cost her life. Cole dismounted before his horse fully stopped, his boots hitting the hard-packed earth at a run. The barn was completely engulfed, flames licking up the wooden sides and consuming the roof with terrifying speed. Through the open door, he could see the orange glow and thick black smoke billowing out in choking waves. "Eliza!" he shouted, pulling his bandana up over his nose and mouth. "Eliza Brennan! Help!" The voice was faint, coming from somewhere deep inside the structure. "Please, I cannot get out!" Cole did not hesitate. He grabbed a bucket from the trough, dumped it over his head and shoulders, and plunged into the burning building. The heat hit him like a physical blow, stealing the breath from his lungs. His eyes watered instantly from the smoke, but he pushed forward, squinting through the haze. "Keep talking," he yelled. "Where are you?" "Here, I am trapped." Her voice came from the left, near what he knew was the tack room. A beam must have fallen and blocked her path. Cole navigated through the nightmare landscape, dodging falling embers and jumping over debris. His lungs screamed for clean air, but he kept moving. Through the smoke, he finally spotted her. Eliza Brennan was pinned beneath a massive support beam that had collapsed across her legs. Her face was streaked with soot and tears, her green eyes wide with terror. "I have you," Cole said, dropping to his knees beside her. The heat was unbearable, and he could feel his skin beginning to blister. He gripped the beam and heaved with all his strength, his muscles straining. It barely budged. "Leave me," Eliza gasped, coughing violently. "You will die too." "Not happening." Cole repositioned himself, planting his feet more firmly. Above them, the roof groaned ominously. He knew they had seconds, not minutes. With a roar of effort, he lifted the beam just enough for Eliza to drag herself free. The moment she was clear, he dropped it and scooped her into his arms. "Hold on to me," he commanded, and she wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face against his shoulder. The journey back was worse than going in. The fire had spread, cutting off their original path. Cole pivoted, looking for another way out. There, near the back wall, he spotted a gap where the boards had burned away. It was narrow, but it was their only chance. He ran, clutching Eliza tight against his chest, protecting her as best he could from the falling debris. A rafter crashed down behind them, sending up a shower of sparks. Cole burst through the gap, stumbling into the blessed cool night air, just as the entire roof caved in with a thunderous crash. They collapsed together on the ground, both coughing and gasping. Cole rolled onto his back, still holding Eliza, his chest heaving as he dragged in lungfuls of clean air. His throat felt like he had swallowed broken glass, and his exposed skin throbbed painfully. "Are you hurt?" he managed to ask, his voice rough and hoarse. Eliza lifted her head, her face inches from his. In the firelight, he could see fresh tears cutting tracks through the soot on her cheeks. "My ankle. I think it is broken, but I am alive because of you." Her voice broke on the last words. "You saved my life, Cole Hartley." Before he could respond, voices echoed across the property. Several of his ranch hands had spotted the fire and come running, along with a few neighboring ranchers. They formed a bucket brigade, though it was clear the barn was a total loss. Their efforts were focused on keeping the flames from spreading to the house and other outbuildings. Doc Henderson arrived within the hour, summoned by one of the hands who had ridden hard into town. The elderly physician examined Eliza right there in the yard, pronouncing her ankle badly sprained, but not broken. Cole's burns were minor, though painful, and the doctor slathered them with salve and wrapped them in clean bandages. "You are both extraordinarily lucky," Doc Henderson said, packing up his bag. "Another minute in there, and neither of you would have made it out." Eliza sat on the porch steps, her foot propped up and wrapped, watching the men work to contain the last of the flames. Her home was saved, and most of the livestock had been in the far pasture, but the barn and everything in it was gone. Years of tools, supplies, and memories reduced to ash. Cole lowered himself onto the step beside her, wincing slightly. His hands were wrapped in white bandages, and his face was red and raw in places. "How did it start?" he asked quietly. "I do not know. I was in the tack room mending a bridle. I had a lantern, but I was careful with it. I always am." She shook her head, her long, dark hair, singed at the ends, falling around her shoulders. One moment everything was fine, and the next, the whole wall was ablaze. "It spread so fast, Cole. I tried to run, but the beam fell, and I thought—" She trailed off, her hands trembling. Without thinking, Cole reached over and took her hand in his bandaged one. "You are safe now? That is all that matters." She looked down at their joined hands, then up at his face. "Why did you do it? You could have died for me. I could not let you burn." The words came out simple and honest. The truth was, Cole had been half in love with Eliza Brennan since the day he first saw her in church 3 years ago. But she had been her father's daughter then, helping run his ranch. And Cole had been a hired hand working his way up to his own spread. By the time he had enough land and resources to court her properly, Thomas Brennan had died, and Eliza had been drowning in grief and responsibility. It had never seemed like the right time to speak his heart, until tonight, when he thought he might lose her forever without her ever knowing. "I am grateful," she said softly. "More grateful than I can express. I have been so foolish, Cole, trying to do everything myself. Pride nearly killed me tonight." "You are the strongest woman I know," Cole replied. "But even the strong need help sometimes." She squeezed his hand gently, mindful of his injuries. "Will you help me? Truly? I cannot rebuild this alone, and I cannot afford to hire a crew." "I will help you," Cole promised. "Whatever you need." By dawn, the fire was completely out, leaving only smoldering ruins and the acrid smell of smoke hanging heavy in the air. The neighboring ranchers headed home, promising to return with supplies and labor to help with the rebuilding. Cole's hands insisted he go back to his own ranch and rest, but he refused to leave until he was certain Eliza was settled safely in the house. She limped inside with his support, her injured ankle making her movements awkward. The house was modest but well kept, with simple furniture and cheerful yellow curtains in the kitchen windows. Cole helped her onto the sofa and propped her foot up on a cushion. "You should rest," he said. "I will check on the livestock and make sure everything is secure." "Cole!" Her voice stopped him at the door. "Thank you for everything." He nodded, tipping his hat to her, and stepped back out into the morning light. Over the following weeks, Cole became a constant presence at the Brennan Ranch. His own property bordered hers to the east, making it easy to split his time between the two. He brought lumber, nails, and tools. He organized work crews and supervised the barn rebuilding. He checked on Eliza's healing ankle daily and made sure she stayed off it as much as possible. Eliza, for her part, fought against being idle. She cooked for the workers, mended their clothes when they tore, and managed the ranch accounts from her seat at the kitchen table. Cole often found her hobbling around on a makeshift crutch, insisting she needed to do something useful. "You are useful," he told her one afternoon, gently steering her back toward a chair. "You are healing. That is the most important job you have right now." "I feel useless," she countered, but she sat down with a sigh. "Everyone is working so hard, and I am just sitting here like a china doll." Cole pulled up a chair across from her, his bandages long since removed, though his hands were still pink and tender in places. "You almost died, Eliza. Your body needs time to recover. There is no shame in that." She looked at him for a long moment, her green eyes searching his face. "You have done so much for me, more than anyone should." "Why?" It was the question he had been dreading and hoping for in equal measure. Cole leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Can I be honest with you? Always. I care about you, have for a long time now. I know this probably is not the right time, with everything you're dealing with, but nearly losing you made me realize that waiting for the perfect moment is foolish. There might not be a perfect moment." He took a breath. "I would like permission to court you, Eliza. Properly." Her eyes widened, and for a heart-stopping second, he thought she would refuse. Then a slow smile spread across her face, transforming it from merely pretty to genuinely beautiful. I was wondering if you were ever going to ask. You were? Cole Hartley, you have been making excuses to visit this ranch for 2 years. You fixed my fence last spring when there was barely anything wrong with it. You brought me preserves at Christmas that your sister made. You tipped your hat to me every single Sunday after church, and always looked like you wanted to say something more. She laughed, a light musical sound that made his heart skip. I thought perhaps I was imagining it, that it was wishful thinking on my part. Wishful thinking? Cole repeated, hardly daring to believe what he was hearing. Eliza reached across the table and took his hand. I have had feelings for you for some time as well, but after my father died, I was so consumed with keeping this place running that I pushed everything else aside, including my own heart. Her thumb traced gentle circles on the back of his hand. Then you charged into a burning building for me, and I realized that life is too short and too uncertain to ignore what matters most. Cole stood, still holding her hand, and moved around the table to stand beside her. He reached out with his free hand and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. So, that is a yes? I can court you? That is a yes, she confirmed, looking up at him with those incredible green eyes. He wanted to kiss her right then, but propriety held him back. They were alone in the house, and she was an unmarried woman. Instead, he raised her hand to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. I will do right by you, Eliza. I promise. I know you will. The barn rebuilding took most of October. Cole worked alongside his hands and the neighboring ranchers who volunteered their time. It was hard, honest work that left everyone tired and satisfied at the end of each day. The new barn would be even better than the old one, with improved ventilation and a more efficient layout. As the structure took shape, so did Cole and Eliza's relationship. He courted her with a combination of old-fashioned propriety and genuine care. He brought her wildflowers from the meadow. He sat with her in the evenings on the porch, talking about everything and nothing. He learned that she loved to read, that she had a sharp mind for numbers, and that she had always wanted to travel but had never left Montana. She learned that he had come west from Missouri at 18, determined to make his own way. That he had a younger sister back home who was married with 3 children. That he loved the land with a fierce passion and dreamed of building something lasting, something he could pass down to his own children someday. Do you want children? Eliza asked one evening as they sat watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and gold. I do, Cole admitted. A whole houseful, if I'm blessed enough. What about you? I always imagined having a family, she said softly. When I was younger, I thought I would have several children by now, but life did not unfold the way I expected. Cole reached over and took her hand, an action that had become natural between them. Life has a way of surprising us. It does indeed. She smiled at him, and he saw hope shining in her eyes. By the time November arrived, the barn was finished, and Eliza's ankle had healed completely. The first snow of the season dusted the mountains in the distance, a reminder that winter was coming fast. Cole knew he needed to focus on preparing his own ranch for the cold months ahead, but he found himself reluctant to spend less time at Eliza's side. One particularly cold evening, he arrived at her door with a proposition. Eliza invited him in, offering coffee and fresh-baked bread. They settled at the kitchen table, and Cole gathered his courage. I have been thinking, he began. Winter is going to be hard, for both of us. Managing our ranches separately means twice the work, twice the risk. What are you suggesting? Eliza asked, though he could see understanding dawning in her eyes. Marry me. The words came out more bluntly than he had planned, but he pressed on. I know we have only been courting for a few weeks, but we have known each other for years. I love you, Eliza. I want to spend my life with you, building something together. Combining our ranches makes practical sense, but more than that, I cannot imagine my future without you in it. Eliza set down her coffee cup carefully. Cole Hartley, are you proposing to me for practical reasons or romantic ones? Both, he admitted. Would you prefer I lied and said it was only romance? She laughed, shaking her head. No, I appreciate your honesty. The truth is, combining our ranches does make sense. Together, we would have enough land and resources to weather any storm. She paused, her expression growing serious. But I need to know that you truly love me, not just the land I bring. Cole pushed back from the table and dropped to one knee in front of her. He took both her hands in his. Eliza Brennan, I would love you if you had nothing but the clothes on your back. You are brave and strong and kind. You are intelligent and capable and beautiful. You make me laugh, and you make me want to be a better man. I fell in love with you long before that fire, and I will love you long after we are both old and gray. So, yes, this proposal is practical, but it is also the deepest desire of my heart. Will you marry me?" Tears glistened in her eyes, but she was smiling. "Yes, Cole. Yes, I will marry you." He surged up and kissed her, properly this time, pouring all his love and relief and joy into it. She kissed him back with equal fervor, her hands coming up to cup his face. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard and grinning like fools. "When?" Eliza asked breathlessly. "As soon as possible," Cole replied. "Why wait? Why wait indeed?" They were married 3 weeks later in the small church in town. It was a simple ceremony, attended by friends and neighbors who had helped them through the fire and its aftermath. Eliza wore a dress of pale blue silk that had belonged to her mother, and Cole wore his best suit, his hair slicked back and his boots polished to a shine. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Cole kissed his bride with a tenderness that brought tears to more than one eye in the congregation. Eliza clung to him, and he held her close, marveling at how his life had changed in just a few short months. The reception was held at Cole's ranch, which was larger and could accommodate more people. Tables were laden with food, and someone had brought a fiddle. There was dancing and laughter and toast to the happy couple. Cole danced with his new wife, holding her close as they swayed to the music. "Happy?" he murmured into her ear. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she replied, looking up at him with shining eyes. They spent their wedding night in Cole's house, which was now their house. It was larger than Eliza's, with 3 bedrooms and a spacious front room. Cole carried her over the threshold, both of them laughing, and set her down gently in the middle of the room. "Welcome home, Mrs. Hartley," he said. "It feels like home already," she replied, looking around with a smile. That night, they came together as husband and wife, with a passion tempered by tenderness. Cole was gentle with her, taking his time, worshiping her body with his hands and mouth until she gasped his name. Eliza responded with equal ardor, exploring the hard plains of his body, tracing the scars from the fire with her fingertips. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest and his arms wrapped around her. "I love you," Eliza whispered into the darkness. "I love you too," Cole replied, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "More than I can say." Winter settled over Montana with a vengeance. Snow piled high, and temperatures dropped well below freezing. But inside the Hartley home, there was warmth and love. Cole and Eliza worked side by side, managing their combined herds and keeping the ranch running smoothly. They learned each other's rhythms and habits, adapting and compromising as all newlyweds must. There were disagreements, of course. Eliza was used to doing things her way, and Cole had his own methods. But they always talked through their differences, and their respect for each other grew with each passing day. By the time spring arrived, thawing the frozen ground and bringing new life to the prairie, Eliza had news that filled them both with joy. "I am with child," she told Cole one morning over breakfast, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. Cole dropped his fork, his mouth falling open in shock. Then a grin spread across his face, and he jumped up from his chair, scooping her into his arms and spinning her around. "Are you certain?" "As certain as I can be. Doc Henderson confirmed it yesterday when I rode into town." "You rode into town?" Cole set her down carefully, suddenly worried. "Should you be riding?" "I am pregnant, not fragile," Eliza laughed. "But I appreciate your concern." Cole placed his hand over hers on her stomach. "A baby. Our baby." "Are you happy?" she asked, though she could see the answer written all over his face. "I am beyond happy. I am elated. I am terrified. I am everything all at once." He pulled her close, holding her tight. "We are going to be parents." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Eliza continued to work around the ranch, though Cole fussed over her constantly, insisting she not overdo it. She tolerated his hovering with good humor, understanding it came from a place of love. As summer approached, they converted one of the spare bedrooms into a nursery. Cole built a cradle from oak, sanding it smooth and carving small flowers into the headboard. Eliza sewed blankets and tiny clothes, her excitement growing with each passing week. In late August, just over a year after the fire that had brought them together, Eliza went into labor, It was a long, difficult process that tested both of them. Cole stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand and offering what comfort he could. Doc Henderson arrived and took charge, his calm demeanor a steadying presence. When the baby finally arrived in the early hours of the morning, Cole heard the most beautiful sound in the world, his child's first cry. "It is a boy," Doc Henderson announced, placing the squirming, red-faced infant in Eliza's arms. Eliza looked down at their son with tears streaming down her face. "He is perfect." Cole leaned in close, his own eyes wet as he gazed at the tiny person they had created. "He is amazing. You are amazing." He kissed Eliza's forehead, then gently touched the baby's soft cheek. "What should we name him?" They had discussed names, but could never quite agree. Now, looking at their son, Eliza said, "Thomas, after my father, Thomas Cole Hartley." "Thomas Cole Hartley," Cole repeated, testing how it sounded. "I like it. Tommy for short." "Tommy," Eliza agreed, smiling down at the baby, who was already trying to find her breast. Fatherhood transformed Cole in ways he had not expected. He was awed by the responsibility of caring for such a tiny, helpless person. He changed diapers and walked the floor at night when Tommy fussed. He sang off-key lullabies and made silly faces to coax smiles from his son. Eliza thrived as a mother, though she was exhausted. She nursed Tommy and soothed his cries, all while managing the household and helping with the ranch when she could. Cole made sure she rested, taking on extra work himself and hiring additional hands to pick up the slack. Their life fell into a new rhythm, one centered around their growing family. Tommy was a happy, healthy baby who seemed to smile at everything. He had his mother's green eyes and his father's dark hair, a perfect blend of both his parents. One evening, when Tommy was 6 months old, Cole and Eliza sat on the porch together, watching the sunset. Tommy was asleep in his mother's arms, his tiny fist curled against her chest. "Do you ever think about that night?" Eliza asked softly. "The fire?" "Sometimes," Cole admitted. "I have nightmares occasionally where I cannot reach you in time. But then I wake up and you are there beside me, and I remember that we made it. We both survived." "You saved my life that night," Eliza said, not for the first time. "Everything I have now, everything we have built together, exists because you were brave enough to run into those flames." "I could not imagine a world without you in it," Cole replied simply. "I still cannot." "I love you, Cole Hartley, more every day." "I love you too, Eliza. You and this little one are my whole world." The years passed in a blur of happiness and hard work. Tommy grew from a baby into a rambunctious toddler, then a curious young boy. When he was 3, Eliza gave birth to a daughter they named Sarah, after Cole's mother. 2 years after that, another son arrived, whom they called James. The ranch prospered under their joint management. Cole's instincts for breeding cattle combined with Eliza's head for business made them a formidable team. They expanded their holdings, buying up adjacent land when it became available. They built a larger house to accommodate their growing family, though they kept the original structure as a guest house. Through it all, their love for each other only deepened. They faced challenges together, droughts that threatened their herds, harsh winters that tested their resolve, the everyday struggles of raising children and running a business. But they faced everything as partners, always united. Tommy grew into a fine young man with his father's strength and his mother's intelligence. He loved the ranch and announced at 15 that he wanted to take it over someday. Cole felt a profound satisfaction knowing that the legacy he and Eliza were building would continue through their children. Sarah was spirited and independent, with a gift for gentling horses. She could ride before she could properly walk and spent every spare moment in the stables. James was quieter, more thoughtful, with a love of books that reminded Cole of his wife. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Cole took Eliza on a picnic to the spot where her old barn had once stood. A new barn had long since replaced it, larger and more modern, but the ground where the original had burned was now a meadow filled with wildflowers. They spread a blanket and sat together, watching the children play in the distance. Tommy was teaching Sarah how to skip stones in the creek, while James collected interesting rocks. 10 years, Eliza mused, leaning against Cole's shoulder. It feels like a lifetime, and like no time at all. Best 10 years of my life, Cole said, wrapping his arm around her. Do you remember what you said to me the night of the fire, when you first asked to court me? I said that waiting for the perfect moment was foolish because there might not be a perfect moment. You were right. If we had waited for everything to be perfect, we might have waited forever. Instead, we built our own perfection, one day at a time. Cole turned to look at her, this woman who had captured his heart so completely. There were fine lines at the corners of her eyes now, and strands of silver in her dark hair. She was more beautiful to him than ever. I would do it all again, he said. Every moment, every challenge, every joy. I would run into that burning barn 1,000 times if it meant having this life with you. Eliza reached up and cupped his face in her hand. My hero, my husband, my love. He kissed her then, soft and sweet. A kiss that held a decade of devotion and promised decades more to come. The children came running over, laughing and breathless. Tommy had mud on his knees, Sarah had flowers in her hair, and James clutched a particularly interesting piece of quartz. Look what I found, James exclaimed, showing them the rock. That is beautiful, son, Cole said, examining it with genuine interest. Can we eat now? Sarah asked, eyeing the picnic basket. I am starving. When are you not starving? Tommy teased, earning a punch to his arm from his sister. Children, Eliza said with mock sternness, though she was smiling. Let us eat. They unpacked the basket together, laying out fried chicken, fresh bread, cheese, and apple pie. The family ate and talked and laughed, surrounded by the vast Montana sky and the land they all loved. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and reds that reminded Cole uncomfortably of flames, Tommy asked, Papa, tell us again about the night you saved Mama. It was a story the children never tired of hearing, though Cole always felt uncomfortable with the hero worship in their eyes when he told it. I did what anyone would have done, he began, as he always did. No, Eliza interrupted, as she always did. You did what few people would have had the courage to do. You risked your life for mine. Cole looked at his family gathered around him and felt his heart swell with emotion. I gained far more than I risked, he said quietly. That night, terrifying as it was, led to everything I hold most dear. He told the story, keeping the frightening parts brief for the younger children's sake, emphasizing instead the love that had grown from the ashes of that fire. When he finished, Sarah climbed into his lap, even though she was getting too big for it. I am glad you were brave, Papa, she said. Me too, sweetheart, me too. As darkness fell, they packed up the picnic and headed home, Tommy and James running ahead while Sarah rode on Cole's shoulders. Eliza walked beside him, her hand in his, comfortable in the silence that comes from knowing someone completely. Back at the house, they put the children to bed, listening to their prayers and tucking them in with kisses. Then Cole and Eliza retired to their own room, the sanctuary they had shared for a decade. Happy anniversary, Cole said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Eliza's eyes widened. Cole, you did not need to get me anything. Open it. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant shaped like a flame. Eliza gasped, touching it gently. I know it is an unusual choice, Cole said, suddenly uncertain. But I wanted you to have something that represented our beginning. That fire could have destroyed everything, but instead, it forged something beautiful and strong, like this gold, like us. Tears filled Eliza's eyes. It is perfect, absolutely perfect. Will you help me put it on? He fastened it around her neck, his fingers lingering on her skin. She turned to face him, the pendant resting just above her heart. I have something for you too, she said, reaching into her dresser drawer. She pulled out a leather journal, worn and well used. I have been keeping a record of our life together, every important moment, every joy, every challenge we have overcome. I wanted our children and their children to know our story, the real story, not just the dramatic parts. Cole took the journal reverently, flipping through pages filled with Eliza's neat handwriting. He saw dates and descriptions, snippets of conversation, pressed flowers from their wedding. It was their life, chronicled in ink and paper. This is incredible, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you. We have built something worth remembering, Eliza said. I wanted to make sure it was not forgotten. That night, they made love with the passion of newlyweds and the tenderness of long-married partners. Afterwards, they lay together in the darkness, Eliza's head on Cole's chest, listening to his heartbeat. What do you think the next 10 years will bring? She asked. More of the same, I hope. More love, more laughter, more life. Watching our children grow. Maybe becoming grandparents someday. Grandparents, Eliza laughed. We are not that old yet. Tommy is already 15. Give it another 10 years, and we might well be. True, I can hardly believe how fast the time has gone. They drifted into comfortable silence, both lost in their own thoughts. Cole reflected on how much his life had changed since that September night, when he saw flames against the sky and heard a scream that still occasionally haunted his dreams. He had been a successful rancher then, but a lonely one. Now he had everything a man could want: a thriving ranch, beautiful children, and a wife he loved more with each passing year. Cole? Eliza's voice pulled him from his reverie. Yes? Thank you for everything, for saving my life, for loving me, for building this life with me. You do not need to thank me. Being your husband, the father of your children, is the greatest honor of my life. She tilted her head up and kissed him softly. I am the lucky one. We are both lucky, he corrected. Lucky to have found each other, lucky to have survived that night, lucky to have this life. The years continued to unfold in a tapestry of ordinary miracles. The children grew and changed, developing into their own unique persons. Tommy courted and married a neighboring rancher's daughter, a smart young woman named Catherine who fit seamlessly into the family. They built a house on the far corner of the property and began their own family, giving Cole and Eliza their first grandchild, a squalling baby girl they named Eliza Catherine. Holding his granddaughter for the first time, Cole was overwhelmed by the weight of legacy and love. This tiny person existed because he had run into a burning barn 20 years ago, because he had loved a stubborn, beautiful woman enough to risk his life. Every moment, every decision had led to this. Sarah, true to her independent nature, shocked everyone by announcing at 18 that she wanted to travel before settling down. With her parents' blessing and enough money to see her through, she set off to see the cities of the East, sending long letters describing everything she saw. Cole missed her terribly, but admired her courage. James, at 16, was showing an interest in law. He wanted to attend university, something neither Cole nor Eliza had done. They encouraged him, proud that they could provide opportunities their own parents never could. The ranch continued to prosper. Cole and Eliza had long since paid off all their debts and had money in the bank for the first time in their lives. They employed several families, providing good wages and fair treatment. Their reputation for integrity spread, and other ranchers often sought Cole's advice on breeding or Eliza's counsel on business matters. On their 20th anniversary, the whole family gathered for a celebration. Tommy and Catherine came with their 3 children. Sarah had returned from her travels, full of stories and already planning her next adventure. James was home from his first year at university, looking older and more serious in his spectacles. They held the party at the main house, with tables set up in the yard and lanterns strung between the trees. There was music and dancing, and someone had made a cake with 20 candles on it. As Cole and Eliza cut the cake together, their hands joined on the knife as they had been on their wedding day. Cole looked around at the assembled crowd. Friends, family, employees, all gathered to celebrate a marriage that had been forged in literal fire and tempered by time into something unbreakable. "Speech!" someone called out, and others took up the cry. Cole held up his hand for silence, uncomfortable with being the center of attention, but willing to indulge them. "I am not much for speeches," he began, and several people laughed. "But I will say this. 20 years ago, I ran into a burning barn to save a woman I barely knew, but had loved from afar. I walked out with her in my arms, both of us singed and coughing, but alive. I thought that was the end of the danger, the end of the drama. I thought we would go back to our separate lives." He paused, looking at Eliza, who was smiling at him with shining eyes. "I was wrong. That night was not an ending, but a beginning. Every day since then has been an adventure. Raising children, building a life, weathering storms both literal and figurative. And every single day, I have loved this woman more than the day before." He turned to fully face Eliza, taking both her hands in his. "You are my partner, my best friend, my true love. You are the bravest person I know, and I am honored to stand beside you. Here is to 20 more years, and 20 after that, for as long as we are given." "To Cole and Eliza!" someone shouted, and everyone raised their glasses in a toast. The party continued late into the night. Cole danced with his wife, his daughter-in-law, and his granddaughter, who stood on his feet and giggled as he waltzed her around. He talked cattle with his son, law with James, and travel with Sarah, who was considering becoming a journalist. As the night wound down and the guests began to depart, Cole found himself alone with Eliza on the porch, watching the stars come out overhead. 20 years, Eliza said, echoing the thought from a decade before. Half a lifetime. The best half, Cole said, pulling her close, though I am looking forward to the second half just as much. We have been blessed, Cole, so incredibly blessed. We have. He kissed the top of her head, breathing in the familiar scent of her. I love you, Eliza Hartley, today, tomorrow, and forever. Forever? She agreed, snuggling closer to him. They stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the night sky and thinking about all they had been through and all that was yet to come. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted. Closer by, they could hear the soft sounds of the ranch settling in for the night. Cattle lowing, horses nickering, the creak of the barn that had been rebuilt so many years ago. That barn, Cole thought, had become a symbol for them. It represented destruction and rebirth, ending and beginning, death and life. Every time he looked at it, he remembered the terror of that night, but also the joy that had grown from it. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the fire had never occurred? Eliza asked, as if reading his thoughts. Sometimes, Cole admitted. I like to think we would have found our way to each other eventually. But I am grateful it happened when it did, how it did. I am grateful for every moment that led us here. Even the scary ones, especially the scary ones. They taught us that life is precious and unpredictable, that we should not wait for perfect moments, but create them ourselves. Eliza pulled back slightly to look up at him. You have become quite philosophical in your old age. Old age? Cole sputtered in mock indignation. I am 43, not ancient. And I am 41, and feeling every year of it tonight. She laughed. All this celebrating has worn me out. Then let us go to bed, Mrs. Hartley. Best idea I have heard all night, Mr. Hartley. They walked inside together, banking the fire and blowing out the lamps before climbing the stairs to their bedroom. It was a familiar routine, comforting in its ordinariness. Cole helped Eliza with the buttons on her dress, as he had done countless times before. She helped him with his collar and cufflinks. They changed into their nightclothes and climbed into bed, the same bed they had shared for 20 years. Cole? Eliza's voice came through the darkness. Do you think we will have another 20 years together? It was a question that hung in the air, heavy with all the uncertainty of life. They were both in good health, but the prairie was unforgiving, and nothing was guaranteed. I do not know, Cole answered honestly, but I will spend however many years we are given loving you with everything I have. Whether it is 20 more years or 50, I will make every single one count. That is all anyone can promise, Eliza said softly. That is more than enough. They drifted to sleep in each other's arms, just as they had for 2 decades. The seasons continued their eternal cycle. Summer gave way to fall, fall to winter, winter to spring. The ranch thrived through boom times and lean times, through droughts and floods and everything in between. Cole and Eliza weathered it all together, their partnership growing stronger with each challenge overcome. Tommy expanded his portion of the ranch, adding new innovations and techniques he learned from agricultural journals. Catherine proved to be as capable as her mother-in-law, managing their household and helping with the books. Their family grew to include 5 children, keeping the ranch lively and ensuring the next generation would have someone to carry it forward. Sarah eventually settled down, though not in the way anyone expected. She married a photographer she met during her travels, a gentle soul named Daniel who shared her love of adventure. They lived in Denver, where Sarah wrote articles for newspapers and Daniel captured images of the changing West. They visited often, bringing energy and stories from the wider world. James finished law school and opened a practice in town, specializing in land rights and water law. He married a school teacher, and together they worked to improve education in the area. Though he did not ranch, he remained close to his family and often provided legal advice that protected their interests. Cole and Eliza became the patriarch and matriarch of a sprawling family network. Their home was always open, always welcoming. Grandchildren ran through the halls, and later, great-grandchildren. The family gathered for every holiday, every birthday, every important milestone. On their 30th anniversary, they took a trip, just the 2 of them, leaving the ranch in Tommy's capable hands. They traveled by train to Missouri, to the small town where Cole had grown up. His sister was still there, elderly but spry, and she welcomed them with tears and laughter. Cole showed Eliza the places of his youth, the creek where he learned to fish, the church where he was baptized, the school where he learned to read. They visited his parents' graves, laying flowers and standing in respectful silence. "Thank you for bringing me here," Eliza said as they walked back to the hotel. "I feel like I understand you even better now." "You know me better than anyone," Cole replied. "Better than I know myself sometimes." 30 years of marriage will do that, she teased, "though I'm still discovering new things about you." "Like what?" "Like the fact that you were apparently quite the troublemaker as a boy, according to your sister's stories." Cole laughed. "Margaret exaggerates." "Does she?" "She seemed quite certain about the incident with the chickens in the church social." "That was one time, and it was an accident." Their laughter echoed down the quiet street, two people utterly comfortable in each other's company. They returned to Montana refreshed and ready to dive back into ranch life. But Cole noticed that Eliza was moving a bit slower, tiring more easily. He mentioned it to her, but she brushed off his concerns. "I am getting older, Cole. We both are. A few aches and pains are to be expected." But when she fainted one afternoon while working in the garden, Cole insisted she see Doc Henderson, who had been replaced by his son, Doc Samuel Henderson, but who they still trusted completely. The diagnosis was not serious, but required attention. Eliza's heart was showing signs of strain, likely from decades of hard work and the stress of multiple pregnancies. Doc Henderson prescribed rest and medication, warning that she needed to slow down significantly. For the first time in their marriage, Cole put his foot down. "You are going to listen to the doctor," he said firmly. "No more working yourself to exhaustion. We have plenty of people to handle things." "But the ranch will run just fine without you micromanaging every detail. Tommy is more than capable. Catherine can handle the household accounts. You are going to rest and recover, even if I have to carry you to bed every night." Eliza wanted to argue, but the fear in Cole's eyes stopped her. She realized that her stubbornness, which had always been one of her defining traits, could cost her something precious. Time. Time with her husband, her children, her grandchildren. "All right," she agreed softly. "I will rest." And she did. It was difficult at first, letting go of control, trusting others to handle what she had always managed herself. But Cole was there, constant and supportive, finding ways to keep her occupied without overtaxing her. He read to her in the evenings, books they had never had time for before. They played cards and talked for hours about nothing and everything. Gradually, Eliza's health stabilized. The medications helped, and the rest did her good. By the following spring, she was feeling stronger, though both she and Cole understood that she would never again have the boundless energy of her youth. They adapted as they always had. Eliza took on advisory roles rather than physical work, using her sharp mind to help guide the ranch's direction without exhausting herself. Cole stayed close, always ready to catch her if she stumbled, to support her when she needed it. Their 35th anniversary was a quiet affair, just family and a few close friends. Cole and Eliza sat in the place of honor at the table, surrounded by 3 generations of the family they had created. Looking around at all those faces, Cole felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This was his legacy, not just the land or the cattle, but these people, bound together by love and blood and shared history. After dinner, after the guests had departed and the children and grandchildren had gone to their own homes, Cole and Eliza sat together in the gathering twilight. They were both in their 60s now, their bodies bearing the marks of a life well lived. Cole's hair was silver, and his hands were gnarled from decades of hard work. Eliza's face was lined, her hair snow-white, but her green eyes were as bright and intelligent as ever. 35 years, Cole said, shaking his head in wonder. Where did the time go? Into living, Eliza replied. Into building this life, this family. Every moment was worth it. Do you have any regrets? She considered the question seriously. Small ones, perhaps. Things I wish I had done differently. Words I wish I had spoken or left unsaid. But nothing major. My life with you has been everything I could have wanted and more. Mine too. Cole reached for her hand, their fingers interlacing in a gesture as natural as breathing. I have loved you for more than half my life now. I cannot remember what it was like not to love you. Nor I you. Eliza lifted their joined hands and kissed his knuckles, a mirror of the gesture he had made so many years ago when he asked to court her. You are my heart Cole Hartley, my home, my everything. And you are mine. They sat in silence as the stars began to emerge, one by one, in the darkening sky. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled, its lonely cry answered by another. The sounds of the prairie at night, sounds they had heard together for decades. Cole? Eliza's voice was soft, tentative. Yes, love, when my time comes, I want you to know that I died happy, that I lived a life beyond my wildest dreams, that every day with you was a gift. Eliza, do not talk like that. Hush, let me say this. She squeezed his hand. We are not young anymore. Neither of us knows how much time we have left. But I need you to know that if I were given the choice to live my life over again, I would not change a single thing. Every joy, every sorrow, every moment led me to you, and to this life we built together. That is enough. More than enough. Cole felt tears prick his eyes. The same is true for me. You saved me, Eliza, just as surely as I saved you from that fire. Before you, I was existing but not truly living. You gave my life meaning, purpose, joy. We saved each other, Eliza said. That is what love does. It transforms us, makes us better than we were alone. Promise me something, Cole said suddenly. Anything. Promise me that no matter what happens, no matter who goes first, the one left behind will not give up. We'll keep living, keep finding joy. Our children and grandchildren will need that example. I promise, Eliza said solemnly, though I hope we have many more years together first. As do I. And they did. Years of slower pace, but no less richness. They became the keepers of family history, the ones who told stories of how things used to be. Grandchildren and great-grandchildren climbed into their laps, begging for tales of the old days, of cowboys and cattle drives, of barn burnings and heroic rescues. Cole celebrated his 70th birthday surrounded by family, marveling at how quickly the years had flown. Eliza turned 69 a few months later, still sharp as a tack despite her physical limitations. The ranch was in Tommy's hands now, with James handling all the legal matters and Sarah contributing financially from her successful writing career. Cole and Eliza had earned their rest, though they remained active in the family's life. They offered advice when asked, babysat great-grandchildren, and enjoyed the simple pleasure of each other's company. On a crisp October morning, 42 years after the fire that brought them together, Cole woke to find Eliza already up and dressed. She was standing at the window, looking out at the land they had shared for so long. Come back to bed, Cole said, patting the mattress beside him. It is too early to be up. I wanted to watch the sunrise, Eliza said, but she turned and smiled at him. One more time. There was something in her voice that made Cole sit up, suddenly alert. Eliza? I am all right, she assured him, moving back to the bed. She sat beside him, taking his hand. I just wanted to say thank you for 42 years of love and partnership, for being the best husband, the best father, the best man I have ever known. Eliza, you are scaring me. Do not be scared. I'm just feeling nostalgic this morning. She leaned in and kissed him softly. I love you, Cole Hartley. I have from the moment you carried me out of those flames, though I did not admit it to myself for a while. I love you too, Cole said, holding her close. More than words can say. They stayed like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other's arms, savoring the warmth and closeness. Then Eliza pulled back with a smile. Now, what do you say we go make breakfast? I think I can manage pancakes if you help me. Pancakes it is. They spent the morning together, cooking and eating, talking and laughing. It was an ordinary day, unremarkable in every way except that it was theirs. They walked slowly around the property, greeting the horses and checking on the garden. Tommy stopped by with news about a new calf, and Catherine brought fresh bread. As evening approached, they settled on the porch as they had done thousands of times before. The autumn air was cool but not uncomfortable, and the sunset was spectacular, painting the sky in brilliant shades of gold and crimson. Beautiful, Eliza breathed, leaning against Cole's shoulder. Yes, he agreed, though he was looking at her, not the sky. She caught his gaze and smiled, that special smile reserved only for him. You are supposed to be looking at the sunset. I have seen many sunsets. I would rather look at you. Flatterer, truth-teller. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the day fade into night. Stars began to appear, first a few, then more and more, until the sky was awash with them. "Do you remember," Eliza said softly, "the night you proposed? How nervous you were. I was terrified you would say no. I was terrified you would never ask." Cole chuckled. "We wasted a lot of time being scared. But we found our way in the end. That is what matters." As the night deepened, they went inside, banking the fire and climbing the stairs together. They prepared for bed in comfortable synchronicity, each anticipating the other's movements. Finally, they settled under the covers, Eliza's head on Cole's chest and his arms around her. "Cole? This has been a perfect day, thank you. Every day with you is perfect," he murmured, already half asleep. Eliza smiled in the darkness, closing her eyes and breathing in the familiar scent of him. Safe, loved, home. When Cole woke the next morning, he knew immediately that something was wrong. Eliza was still in his arms, but she was too still, too quiet. He touched her face, his heart lurching. "Eliza!" His voice cracked. "Eliza, wake up!" But she did not wake up. She had passed peacefully in her sleep, her heart simply stopping after years of faithful service. She was gone, leaving Cole alone for the first time in over 4 decades. The grief hit him like a physical blow, stealing his breath and his strength. He held her, rocking back and forth, tears streaming down his face as he whispered her name over and over. Tommy found them an hour later and gently pried his father away. Doc Henderson confirmed what they all knew. Eliza Hartley had died peacefully, without pain, in the arms of the man she loved. The funeral was huge, attended by everyone whose lives Eliza had touched. The church was packed, with people standing in the back and spilling out into the churchyard. Cole sat in the front pew, flanked by his children, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren. He heard the words the preacher spoke about Eliza's kindness and strength, her devotion to family and community. But the words seemed to come from far away, filtered through the fog of his grief. They buried her in the family plot on the ranch, beneath a cottonwood tree where she had always loved to sit. The headstone was simple: Eliza Brennan Hartley, beloved wife, mother, and friend. Cole stood at her grave long after everyone else had left, staring down at the fresh earth. "I promised I would keep living," he said aloud, his voice rough. "I promised, and I will. But God, Eliza, I miss you already. I do not know how to be without you." The wind whispered through the cottonwood leaves, and Cole could almost imagine it was Eliza's voice, telling him he was strong enough, that he would be all right. The days and weeks that followed were the hardest of Cole's life. Everything reminded him of Eliza. The house was full of her presence, her favorite chair, her books, the quilts she had sewn. He found himself starting to tell her something, only to remember she was not there. At night, he reached for her and found only empty space. But he had made a promise, and Cole Hartley kept his promises. He got up each morning. He ate, though food tasted like ash. He spent time with his family, finding comfort in their presence. He watched his grandchildren and great-grandchildren play, seeing Eliza's spirit reflected in their faces. Slowly, painfully, he learned to live with the grief. It did not go away, but it became bearable. He found he could smile again, could laugh at a grandchild's antics, or enjoy a beautiful sunset. The sharp pain dulled to an ache, always present but no longer debilitating. Tommy and Catherine urged him to move in with them, but Cole refused. He wanted to stay in the house he had shared with Eliza, surrounded by their memories. He was perfectly capable of caring for himself, and he needed the solitude to process his loss. One evening, about 6 months after Eliza's death, Cole was going through some of her things when he found the journal she had given him on their 10th anniversary. He had forgotten about it, caught up in the business of living. Now he opened it with trembling hands and began to read. Eliza's voice came alive on the pages, chronicling their life together with love and humor and honesty. She wrote about the fire, about falling in love, about the joy of their children and the challenges of building a life on the frontier. She wrote about arguments they had had and problems they had solved. She wrote about the small, everyday moments that made up a marriage, shared looks, inside jokes, quiet conversations in the dark. Cole read through the night, laughing and crying as he relived their years together. Near the end, the entries became shorter, written in a shakier hand as Eliza's health declined. The last entry was dated the day before she died. I do not know how much time I have left, but I know this. I have been blessed beyond measure. Cole gave me a life I never dared dream of. He loved me fiercely and tenderly, with a constancy that never wavered. Our children are good people, raising good families of their own. The ranch we built together will endure long after we are gone. I could not ask for more. If I die tomorrow, I die content, knowing I was loved and that I loved in return. That is the greatest legacy anyone can leave. Cole closed the journal, holding it against his chest. I love you, Eliza, he whispered. I will love you until my last breath and beyond. The years passed. Cole grew older, his body finally showing the effects of a lifetime of hard work. He walked with a cane now, and his hands shook slightly. But his mind remained sharp, and his love for his family never dimmed. He delighted in his growing family, marveling at each new great-great-grandchild. The ranch continued to prosper under Tommy's leadership, with Tommy's own son taking on more responsibility each year. The Hartley name was respected throughout Montana, synonymous with integrity and hard work. On what would have been his and Eliza's 50th wedding anniversary, Cole held a family gathering. Everyone came, 3 generations filling the house and yard with noise and laughter. There were over 50 people now who could trace their lineage directly to Cole and Eliza, with more on the way. Cole stood to speak, his voice still strong despite his 80 years. 50 years ago today, I married the love of my life. Eliza was my partner in every sense of the word. Together, we built this ranch, raised our children, and created the family that surrounds me now. She has been gone for 8 years, but not a day passes that I do not think of her, that I do not miss her. He paused, looking around at all the faces watching him. But I also see her in all of you, in Tommy's determination, in Sarah's adventurous spirit, in James's intellect, in the grandchildren and great-grandchildren who bear her name and her legacy. Eliza lives on through all of us. He raised his glass. To Eliza, my wife, my love, my everything. And to all of you, the future she and I dreamed of and worked to create. To Eliza! The family chorused, raising their own glasses. The party continued late into the evening, full of joy and celebration. But when everyone had finally gone home and Cole was alone again, he made his way slowly to Eliza's grave. He sat beneath the cottonwood tree, his cane resting against his leg, and talked to her as he often did. 50 years, my love. Can you believe it? The family has grown so much. You would be so proud of them all. He smiled, imagining her response. I kept my promise. I kept living, kept finding joy. But I am tired now, Eliza. So very tired. I miss you every day, and I am ready to be with you again, whenever the Lord sees fit. The wind rustled through the leaves, and Cole closed his eyes, feeling a peace settle over him. He lived another 3 years, passing away quietly in his sleep at the age of 83. His children found him in his bed, a peaceful expression on his face and Eliza's photograph clutched in his hand. They buried him next to Eliza beneath the cottonwood tree. The funeral was even larger than hers had been, a testament to the man he was and the life he had lived. People came from all over Montana to pay their respects to Cole Hartley, a man who had embodied the best of the Old West: courage, integrity, loyalty, and love. The family gathered at the graveside, now marked by 2 simple headstones side by side. Tommy, old himself now, spoke on behalf of his siblings. Our father was a hero, not because of one dramatic act, though saving our mother from that fire was certainly heroic. He was a hero because of how he lived every single day, with honor and kindness and unwavering love. He showed us what it means to be a good person, a good spouse, a good parent. His legacy is not just this ranch or the Hartley name. It is the values he instilled in all of us, and that we, in turn, pass down to our own children. As the family left the cemetery, Tommy lingered behind, looking at his parents' graves. He thought about the story he had heard so many times, about a burning barn and a cowboy brave enough to run into the flames, about a love that grew from that terrifying night into something beautiful and enduring, about 2 people who built a life together, facing every challenge as partners and loving each other until their last breaths. Thank you, Tommy whispered, touching both headstones, for everything. The wind whispered through the cottonwood leaves, carrying with it the promise that love, true love, never really dies. It lives on in the memories of those left behind, in the children and grandchildren who carry forward the best of those who came before, in the stories told and retold around family tables. Cole and Eliza Hartley's story became legend in their family, passed down through generations. The barn that had burned was long gone, replaced and replaced again as the years marched on. But the love that was born from those flames, that was eternal, a testament to the power of courage, devotion, and the unbreakable bond between two souls who found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances and built a life that would echo through the ages. Their great-great-great-grandchildren would one day walk the land Cole and Eliza had claimed and cultivated. They would live in houses that stood where there had once been only prairie grass. They would raise cattle descended from the herds their ancestors had built. And they would know the story of the barn that burned and the cowboy who carried a woman out through the flames, beginning a love story for the ages. In the end, that was the true legacy of Cole and Eliza Hartley. Not just the land or the wealth or the family name, but the example they set of what love could be. Steadfast and true, passionate and tender, strong enough to weather any storm and deep enough to last beyond death itself. They had lived fully, loved completely, and left the world better than they found it. What more could anyone ask for?